And boy, here we go. Because I do definitely have some opinions on what I've done and what has happened to me. And it's going to be an exciting ride. This is where the magic begins. Hold on, because it's going to be a ride. Anyway, we'll see how it all plays out. Anyway, so we're at the cemetery. If you've been wise and found the blaze, we're going to go in the cemetery. If you want more information, I've made some other videos, like one that I released a year ago in July of 2020. Uh, and that gets you to where we're at about right now. And it has some different points of view. And I've refined some things and found a lot more clues here and there. Um, Here's an interesting thought. There's capitals in the book. And if you look at the chapter headings, in one book, they're all capitalized. And then in another book, they're all not capitalized and so forth. So there's your hint to capitals. And we're at the capital of Yellowstone. Good thought. Maybe we'll cover it more. So later I found out that in the dictionary, the definition of a graveyard and a cemetery are different. A graveyard is always associated with a church, often as part of the churchyard. A cemetery stands alone and is not associated with one particular faith. The word cemetery has roots in Greek meaning a sleeping place. Forrest often includes sleeping dreams in his sleeping and dreams in his writing, uh, uh, and beds, truck beds, etc. I should have known, but there's you some more subtle hints. I also forgot Forrest Fenn's number one rule is it's not who you are, it only matters who they think you are. He also said, I hope they don't find out who I am. Well, I'm not going to tell you everything, but I'm going to tell you some. And I hope they don't find out who I am. Anyway, but you're going to. Here we go. Let's take this moment and be caring about people's feelings, especially mine. Anyway, uh, these are my opinions. These are my feelings. If you get offended, please stop watching. Go somewhere else so you can be safe in a padded room where nobody will hurt your feelings and you may be safe and secure and warm. And again, these are my feelings. Anyway, I do love everybody and I really want people to grow. But, part of being an adult is growing a little bit thicker skin so that we can interact with one another. So onwards. Hopefully I'm not bugging anybody too bad, but it needs to be said, I guess, in this day and age. I don't know. You don't want to hear all my political views, but hey, what the heck? Because of this, I realized that Forrest Fenn invites searchers to rob his grave. And, that's stated in Too Far to Walk. Or no, it's in Once Upon a While. Preston writes that we're going to rob his grave. Uh, from my observation, most searchers tend to construct their solve from the position of themselves. I learned again and again to construct myself from what I thought Forrest Fenn to be. Fenn is a riddler and is playing searchers in his game. The person who finds the treasure will be a grave robber of sorts. If you have gone to any Egyptian displays like King Tut, you have viewed the bounty of grave robbers. You might say they had a permit. Still, the finders were grave robbers. I continued to have no intention of robbing any graves in the cemetery at Yellowstone, except one where the occupant is not dead yet, Forrest Fenn. And, I guess if he died and he gave me permission, I would have robbed his grave. I'm sorry. But, after I die, I will not need this body of mine. I move on to a different existence. And you can do what you want with it. I won't care because I'm going to get a new one, a new model, a new car. It's like, when you discard a car that's been useful and people shoot bullet holes because you left it out in the desert, doesn't mean you're offended by it. But anyway, I know it's not the same. I get it. I get it. But you can kind of think along that line. Anyway, I was able to find a book at the Mammoth Hot Springs store titled Deaths in Yellowstone by Lee H. Whitley. I also purchased a Journal of a Trapper edited by Aubrey L. Haynes and Images of American Fort Yellowstone by Elizabeth A. Warrant and Lee H. Westley. The most helpful of these books was Death in Yellowstone because it contained a map of the cemetery in Mammoth Hot Springs and numbers that were associated with the grave markers. While I was still trying to find a pattern in the numbers, I started with numbers like 17. This pattern got me a lot of bad information. I had a couple of other wrong numbers before I started seeing the right numbers. The scrapbooks and the stories keep distracting me. I counted, there was over 254 scrapbooks, but then through reading Too Far to Walk, I had a breakthrough in finding the blaze. There is actually a picture of the blaze in that book. I think Jack says, I found a hint to the blaze in the book. And he says the book, and then everybody thinks it's in The Thrill of the Chase. It was actually in Too Far to Walk. It is a hard thing to accept at first, but I finally did by finding the same blaze in the poem as well. That's when I also figured out that I needed to find everything in the poem in order to have the correct solve. I had to learn this principle a couple of times before I completely internalized it. Yeah, it took a while because I kept on going rabbit hole, squirrel, distraction. Anyway, but evidence of this is that I still got distracted by scrapbooks. Not that scrapbooks can't be helpful. They include hints. It was just super easy to get misled and go down rabbit holes of a carefully disguised hint. I didn't think I could have found the solve with just the poem. I needed the scrapbooks and the books to give me ideas about how to interpret the poem, but I had to verify all the hints to the poem. And that's a very big key. If you can't verify all your ideas to the poem, then you're going down a rabbit hole. Back to my breakthrough. In chapter 46 of Too Far to Walk on page 244, there is a picture of a grave marker. This photo gave this photoed grave marker is almost identical to the one of the grave markers in the Mammoth Springs Cemetery. I found that the person buried in this particular spot was 13 years old when he died. That meant that he would have been in 7th grade. The number for this particular grave marker are 32 and 39. If you count the letters and the commas in, if you've been wise and found the blaze, it equals 32. This line in the poem is number 13. So that's where we find our blaze. And it's pretty cool. And it's the only one. It stands out. It's the only one like it in that area. And, anyway, there you have it. In the section titled in the section of The Thrill of the Chase titled Jump-Starting the Learning Curve, which has lots of great stuff in it. Starts on page 23 of The Thrill of the Chase. I decided that the picture of Forrest Fenn on page 22 was the blaze. At the time the picture was taken, Forrest was 13 and in 7th grade. Page 23 had a lot of hints within the text that also gave clues to the blaze, such as I wasn't very bright, and you got to think backwards. In the book, in the in the books, chapter in the Thrill of the Chase, the chapter titled Buffalo Cowboys on page 65, it reads, "We found it about 7 miles west of town in a large sagebrush flats that had stands of pine trees everywhere." Uh, anyway, some of the examples of usable patterns in this writing include sage equals wise, and 7, the blaze. Additionally, in the Thrill of the Chase on page 89, it says, "From 7 miles away, uh, he had been the first to say I was on fire." 7 equals blaze, and fire equals blaze. So after that, the blaze seemed to pop out everywhere. Forrest Fenn also called himself Forrest Fire. The word value of Fenn is 39, and that number also stands for the blaze because one of the numbers associated with the blaze grave marker is 39. As I pointed out, fire equals blaze, and Forrest called himself Forest Fire. The word value for Forest Fire is 139. And if you take off the 1, you got 39, and that equals the blaze. So word value means A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, and so forth through the alphabet. You take every letter, give it a number value, and add them up, and that gets you a word value. I found another one. Forrest Fenn says, "At 13, I was a professional fishing guide." So a blaze is a guide. It's a trail marker. So there's another 13 right there. So Forrest Fenn was a professional um, fishing guide. So we have some things here that are pointing out uh, the blaze to us. So that'll be the end of this one, and then we'll go on from there.